This is The Owl House, one of the best, if not the best, sorry Gravity Falls, cartoon TV shows to ever come out of the tuning gears that is Disney's in-house animation studio. Now I'm a massive fan of The Owl House, and it gets the silver medal as my all-time favourite Western cartoon show, second only to Avatar for reasons that I'm sure don't need explaining. And after taking inspiration from a certain other Avatar-focused YouTube channel, I wanted to take a similar approach and apply it to The Owl House, so a big thank you to Overanalyzing Avatar for giving me the inspiration to start this channel. So for those of you who have never seen the show or just want to hear me keep talking, The Owl House is a horror comedy kids show that premiered in early 2020 and has 3 seasons totaling 43 episodes. Here's a warning. This show handles a lot of heavy topics such as depression, dealing with loss, a dictatorial government, genocide, discrimination, and to a certain extent mental illness parallels as well. But on the bright side, The Owl House is one of the most LGBTQ+ positive shows ever made, and it has a ton of fantastic characters that the audience can relate to, but not you. That about sums up The Owl House, so let's just start this. Season 1, Episode 1, A Lying Witch and a Warden.
Where am I? Did I die? Am I in a bad place?
The title of this episode, A Lying Witch and a Warden, is a play on the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Both stories are about kids who find a magical portal that takes them to a different reality.
Do not underestimate me, Gildersnake, for I am the good witch Azura, warrior of peace! Now eat this, sucker!
As far as character introductions go, this ain't half bad. Here we meet Luce, who is fantasizing about what she really wants to be, which is in stark contrast to how she is in real life. What we learn about Luce here is that she's a dreamer, she has grand ambitions which aren't always going to be realistic, and she's a huge nerd. We're not being overexposed to character traits yet, which is nice, but we get enough to know what Luce is all about.
And that's the end.
The end of what?
My book report. I think I knocked it out of the park.
Based on its colour and size, I'm guessing that this is a smooth green snake which can be found throughout Luce's home state of Connecticut. They're rather inexpensive to buy, which would explain why Luce could get so many backup snakes, and they're known to be rather difficult to handle, so you know, they're attacking everything naturally.
And what were you going to do with this?
Fireworks in Connecticut are illegal unless you're licensed to use them for a special event or something like that. Did Luce buy these on the black market? Because she's looking at either a $100 fine or up to 90 days in prison.
You think that's an impressive trick? Take a look at this. Bleep, bloop, bleep.
This banner says class of 201, which I find a little weird. These varsity banners almost always display the full year, like 2018 or 2019. I can understand that the long production time required for a pilot episode and that they're probably left a blank space to fill in later with either an 8 or a 9, but heck, this episode premiered in 2020, so shouldn't the banner say class of 202?
Take a look at this. Bleep, bloop, bleep.
After watching this, I tried to invert my eyelids too. Dude, it hurts! Luce, how do you do that?
You may need to spend the summer here.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but until we meet Hunter, this dude is the only canon Owl House character with a tooth gap. That's not important or anything, it's just something I picked up on.
No more weirdness! That doesn't count, right?
I really love the principal's calendar. In fact, do they make calendars like this? After all, Christmas is coming. Also, knowing that the show takes place in modern day, and it being a short J month, there's a 50-50 chance the poor guy was working on Independence Day.
Oh, I gotta go to work. Your bus is coming soon. Text me when you get there. Cuídate mucho, mija. Que te vaya bien.
I don't know much Spanish personally, but apparently what Camille says here is, take care of yourself, mija, good luck. Actually, while I'm on that topic, one thing that The Owl House does extremely well, and is one of many reasons why I adore this show so much, is its integration of the Spanish language and Latina culture. Danny Terrace and the team have done so well to integrate both, and it feels really natural. They've managed to cast a light on such a huge but overlooked cultural background of many people globally, and the representation here remains consistent throughout the entire runtime of the show. I can't think of any other Western cartoon that has done that, which is nuts.
Where is it? Where is it? Tiny trash thief!
Someone explain this to me, because when did Albert find the time to sneak in there and steal Luce's Azura book? We see Luce putting her book in the trash, and she is standing right next to it and remains beside it throughout the entire scene. You're telling me that neither Luce or Khmer noticed an owl rummaging through their trash and picking up the book over those short few seconds? The Isekai has officially begun. We spent a total of 2 minutes and 50 seconds on Earth. This globe has New Zealand on it. The Boiling Isles knows we exist, so why doesn't anybody else?
But this is impressive.
Finally, you're back.
This doll is sentient. Ida, what kind of creepy magic are you practicing behind closed doors? They spend 3 seconds on this scene, and that's all it took. Like, Albert goes from being sentient to non-sentient. Is he Ida's pet? Is he bound to her? Is he free? I don't know. We don't know that Albert's a palisman yet, but upon first watching this, I wanted to know so much more. That's subtle world building done well. Okay, we need to talk about this shot because it is incredible. It sets our expectations of what the Boiling Isles are all about. It is creepy, and it's meant to be. There are tons of horror elements in here, and it does an excellent job at establishing a baseline for what crazy journey Luce and the audience will experience. It's visual storytelling, and it's done really well, and I love it. Also, Emperor's Coven propaganda, all the way back in episode 1. We're only 3 minutes and 45 seconds into the show, and we're already being shown symbolism of a dictatorial government hell-bent on control. That's pretty neat. Is this meant to be Bonesborough? Because all of these buildings are only ever seen in this opening shot. None of them ever get used again in any major story beats or even as background locations, which is a shame, because they look amazing. But it is the pilot episode, so you can't blame them too much.
Ah! Where am I? Did I die? Am I in the bad place?
You wish.
This scene made me laugh so much with how seriously concerned Luce is, and Ida just goes along with it. Like, I like how this joke both displays their personalities really well, and it's a good baseline for the type of horror-esque humour you'll see in the show moving forward. A+.
Eat you? Why would I eat a potential customer?
Why does Ida remind me so much of Mr. Krabs? Actually, now that we've seen some on-screen interaction with Luce, let's take a closer look at Ida's character introduction as well. So, let's see. She loves getting paid, she's snarky and quick-witted, she loves showmanship and being the centre of attention, and she can be very impatient. You know, Ida's introduction is truly excellent. She's been on screen for less than a minute, and already we know 4 of her major personality traits. The only key things that I can think of that weren't shown in this scene were her hatred for the Emperor's Coven, the curse, and how she acts overly protective to people close to her.
Eat you? Why would I eat a potential customer?
There is a lot happening in the background of this scene, so I'm going to do my best to break it all down. There are 4 clocks present here. This one looks like Bill's cipher, but the fact that clocks make up so many of the collectibles that Ida is selling makes me wonder if this was intentional by the crew, because if it is, that's great foreshadowing for how important time will be throughout the rest of the show. The main overarching story of the Owl House centres around the Day of Unity, which is on a set day that will happen in the future. The main cast doesn't know this yet, but there is a time limit in which all of the characters and plot points have to happen by, because the Emperor plans on eliminating everyone on the Boiling Isles, so their days are numbered. After all, they don't have time for 20 more adventures. This clock says 4:40, which is the same time that this scene takes place in the episode. Dipper's hat. Dipper's hat has the imagery of the Liberty Bell on it, the Liberty Bell of course being an iconic symbol of American independence, with liberty specifically meaning the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behaviour or political views. This is basically a big screw you to the Emperor's Coven, who are the complete opposite of that.
Here, let me see it.
Maybe it just shows my age, but I had no idea that battery-powered portable fatback TVs were a thing, and yeah, after looking it up, they totally were a thing. Dang, Ida knows how to get her hands on some weird stuff.
The sound, it's so alluring.
This Cyclops dude is trying to sell a live baby.
What did you say your name was?
I'm Luce. Luce Naceba.
Well, Luce, that was pretty clever.
This is the only time in the entire show that we see snails, the currency used in the show, depicted in the form of paper notes. After this episode, it's nothing but coins.
I'm Ida, the Owl Lady, the most powerful witch on the Boiling Isles.
For someone who is a wanted criminal with an extremely large bounty on her head, why is Ida making such a big public scene? Hell, she even announces her name and moniker. This is going to come back and bite her in the ass, I'm sure of it.
I am a respected, feared.
Busted!
Like I said, it's going to come back and bite her in the ass.
Ida the Owl Lady, you are wanted for misuse of magic and demonic misdemeanors.
Misuse of magic? Oh, absolutely. Demonic misdemeanors? I'm very curious to know exactly what that means. Has she tried to resurrect the dead? Has she drawn a big pentagram and blood on the floor? Like, that's a big open-ended book.
You are wanted for misuse of magic and demonic misdemeanors.
Her bounty is 1 trillion snails? What the hell has she done to piss the Emperor off that much, huh? That's equivalent to the entire GDP of the Netherlands. Hell, that is 4 times larger than the GDP of my own country, New Zealand. How rich is the Emperor? Is 1 trillion snails a lot of money to him, or is that just like spare change? We see later on in the season that apple blood, which is like a stand-in for juice and or alcohol, only costs a few snails, so the economy of the Boiling Isles and the human realm seem to be close enough to equal. But what that means is that whoever catches and turns an Ida would immediately become 5 times richer than the richest person on Earth. That's insane.
And you're coming too, for fraternizing with a criminal.
What? That's not cool!
No, Luce, that's not cool. Being present at the scene of a crime does not automatically make you guilty. Oh, wait, no, the Boiling Isles is a dictatorship. Never mind then.
Follow me, human.
Ida left behind her tent and everything within it. Well, I guess you're never seeing that again.
Ha! I won't let him hurt you. Human like you is much more valuable to me alive than dead.
Ida does not care about Luce at all, at least not right now. I'll explain what I mean in a minute, but a lot of casual viewers of the show don't really pick up on this early into the show, and it is the first sign of an ongoing theme throughout the whole show that I will get into in future episodes. It is fantastic, subtle foreshadowing though.
You got away with it. She got away with it, everybody. Typical.
If Luce taking snakes into school at the beginning of the episode wasn't a clear enough evidence that she's comfortable around snakes, here we get our first piece of snake symbolism, which fans of the show will know becomes very important later. So every time I see snake symbolism, I'm going to point it out.
Typical.
The cursed paintings are on sale because, you know, they're cursed, while the blessed rocks are not.
You can open your eyes now, human.
Ida knows Luce's name as they've just introduced themselves. It should still be fresh in her mind, yet she still calls her human.
This is the Boiling Isles. Every myth you humans have is caused by a little of our world leaking into yours.
Are these ribs? The town of Bonesborough is meant to be located on the Titan somewhere along the left humerus bone. That is nowhere near the ribs, so what bones are these?
A griffin! I knew it!
That was a good throwback to a previous gag, made me laugh. A+.
Griffins, vampires, giraffes.
Giraffes?
Oh yeah, we banished those guys. A bunch of freaks.
Wait until Season 3, Episode 1 to find out why. Also, vampires were mentioned here as residing on the Boiling Isles, but we never meet one. Never. This is the only time in the entire show that vampires are referenced as living in the demon realm. I'm kinda disappointed. A vampire plotline at some point in the show would have been amazing.
A bunch of freaks. Oops. That happens sometimes.
There's an animation error here, which is a blink and you miss it type of thing, but if you slow down the frames in the scene that Ida's hand comes off, you can actually see that her hand stays attached the entire time, only to magically come off in the very next scene.
This is clearly not the PG fantasy world I always dreamed about. So, can you help me get back home?
Only if you help me first. Now come along, human.
Okay, so this is twice now that Ida has called Luce a human despite knowing what her name is. This is where I get back to that discussion that I mentioned earlier. It's blatantly obvious that Ida does not care about Luce. Yet. Luce is a human. Humans are systematically looked down upon on the Boiling Isles, which is exactly what Ida is doing right now. Ida's only keeping Luce with her at this point in time because Ida wants to use her to help King, but don't worry, Ida will come around eventually. When we look at Luce's other first interactions with characters, you have your typical mean characters like Boscha, Odalia and Bully Amity, who are blatantly outspoken about how much they don't like humans. But even our friendly characters like Willow, Ida and later on Lilith, hell even Luce herself, are outspoken about their concerns that Luce is human and therefore she cannot perform or is weak. I hate to say it, but this sounds like discrimination. It's not outright labelled as such in the show, but it's obvious what the writers were going for here. Humans are discriminated against in the Boiling Isles for their perceived weaknesses and lack of magical ability. And this is a large overarching theme that Luce is going to have to deal with throughout the rest of the show. It is deep, it is complicated, and it'll fly right over many children's heads. But I appreciate the writers included it and are addressing it fairly thoroughly throughout the course of the show. This creepy owl thing feels a little out of place in the scene. It adds nothing to the scene other than providing an establishing shot for the location of the owl house. The way it perches on the eave above the door, you'd think it would play a more central role in the plot, but nope. This is the only episode it ever shows up in.
My house has a state-of-the-art defense system.
Hoot hoot! Password, please! Ow!
We got no time for this, Hootie. Let us in.
All right, jeez! You never want to have any fun! Ow!
Hootie is the most underrated character in the show. Yeah, that's right, I said it. Fight me. This is disgusting, and I think the writers agree because Hootie never does this again. He just opens like a normal door.
Where I hide away from the pressures of modern life. Also the cops. Also ex-boyfriends.
You're not hiding very well, Ida, because both the cops and your ex-boyfriends know exactly where you live and they visit you later on in the show.
Where I hide away from the pressures of modern life.
These candles are glowing, but they have no flames.
Who dares intrude upon I, the
King of Demons!
King was just down the hall, right next to an open door. Why is his voice so deep? Sound doesn't carry like that. Also, he's adorable.
Ida, he's so cute!
Luce just said, "Oh, how cute," and then proceeded to say the exact same thing in English. My headcanon is that she subconsciously realised that both Ida and King can't understand Spanish, and so she automatically translated it. That's kinda cool.
Who's a little guy? Is it you? Is it you?
No! I don't know who your little guy is!
This comes across as kinda patronising, especially from King's point of view, but I suppose after living with Ida for so long, he'd be used to that by now. Also, Ida has a severed hand nailed to her wall. I've never noticed that before.
Oh, this is Luce, the human. She's here to help us with our little situation.
Ida finally said Luce's name, but it was in the context of she's here to help us, aka we're going to use her. Think of that as you will. This is also the first on-screen example of Mama Ida that we get to see. One of Ida's main character arcs is opening up to others and the acceptance of family, whether that be through blood or through adoption. As known at this point in the show, the only person in her life that she truly sees as family is King, and upon realising King's discomfort with the affection he was getting from Luce, Ida steps in and immediately separates them, despite knowing by this point that Luce is not a threat. She really deeply cares about King.
King was once a mighty king of demons, until his crown of power was stolen and he became this.
More snake symbolism.
I mean, we're kind of your only way home.
So I don't really have a choice, do I?
Nope. Now you've got no time to lose.
Whoa, Ida is blackmailing Luce. She still doesn't really care about her. That's going to take a few more episodes at least.
Where are we going?
Somewhere super fun. The Conformatorium.
These round windows on the Conformatorium each have 9 holes. This could be a reference to the 9 main coven tracks, with the huge imposing building itself representing that of the Emperor's Coven. Also, this building is absolutely massive. However, despite this, it doesn't feature in the establishing shot of Bonesborough that we saw earlier. To be fair, a lot of what we see in this pilot episode either gets retconned, like the Hootie door thing, or it disappears entirely, like the snail's currency being used in the form of paper notes. So I wouldn't take it too seriously, after all this is a pilot. However, a lot of fans rank this episode quite low compared to the rest of the series because of little things like this, and I can understand why.
You and I will sneak up to the top of the tower where they're holding my crown.
You may have noticed that King never opens his mouth. Well, he does occasionally, but static shots like this where King is the only character on screen, it becomes really noticeable and it looks kinda weird. You know, since we're talking about King, I think now's a pretty good time to talk about his character introduction. Now, please don't hate me for saying this, but I don't think it's that great. King, for all intents and purposes, is introduced to us as that one cute character who says a funny line sometimes, kinda like Waddles in Gravity Falls or Beemo at the start of Adventure Time. Now don't get me wrong, King becomes a fantastic character later on in the show, and he goes through some huge character development in Season 2 onwards, but for now, King's overly optimistic, a huge dreamer, and has grand ambitions which aren't that realistic. King sounds exactly like Luce, who already has those main character traits covered. Unfortunately, all King has to distinguish him right now is that he's cute and he's obsessed with stuffed toys. Oh, I can't wait for Season 2 though.
Well, I need a disguise.
I've been waiting to use this. Meow meow.
It's hideous.
Oh, you'll fit right in.
Oh, I love all of these characters. As a trio, they have some of the best lines in the show. Ida could have very easily held the magic platform long enough for King and Luce to step off, but no, she decided to let them fight for their lives instead.
Meet you guys at the top of the tower.
Of all of the wanted criminals displayed on background posters here, the most valuable one is worth 700,000 snails. This means Ida's wanted bounty is 1,428,000 times larger. How is someone not trying to assassinate her every time she walks around a corner? And again, what did she do? It can't just be from not wanting to join a coven, right? Is she a war criminal? Snake imagery. This criminal is wanted for stealing teeth. Jacob was right.
Haha, cats don't do that.
How does King know what cats are, and that they always land on their feet? Cats are a human realm animal. We don't see any pet cats or even wild cats in the Boiling Isles. The only cat on the entire show is Amity's Palisman Ghost, but Amity was never present for the Palisman adoption day, so that means that she must have carved Ghost. So how does Amity know what cats look like? How does King know what cats look like? There's even an episode later on in the season where King is watching cat videos on Luce's phone, and even then he doesn't know what cats are. He calls them beasts instead.
Hey, cat lady. How'd you get out of your cell?
Oh, no. I'm not a cat. Also, I'm not a criminal.
Not yet, you're not.
Don't worry, Luce, give it time. You'll be a wanted criminal soon enough.
I like food, I like love. Just let me write about it.
If the Owl House ever makes a spin-off comic, please publish Katya's food love fanfics. That'll be an interesting read.
I'm here because I like eating my own eyes. Oh.
How does he do that? Is there a connection between his mouth and his eye sockets? Also, what happened to his other eyes? Did he swallow them and, you know, they just went down a little too far and he's like, oh, whoops, at least I don't need to have dinner. Katya doesn't need to be here, but he definitely does. He is cannibalizing himself. Someone needs to watch him.
The world is a simulation! We're but playthings for a higher being!
Ah, it's Tiny Nose, Dana Terrace's self-insert character, who was also really good at foreshadowing.
I can hear you. Just what are you fools whispering about?
That is a good way to introduce an antagonist. Also, Warden Wrath is wearing a Plague Doctor's mask, which is a nice touch to his character design since he views people with weird obsessions as being a plague on society.
I'll get my hands on her soon enough.
Fight against the oppressor!
Warden Wrath stares directly into Luce's eyes. He is the Warden. He is in charge of locking people away. How does he not realise that Luce isn't meant to be there? And if he did, why did he just leave her alone? Warden Wrath is seen heavily damaging the bars of the cell that Luce ran into, but in the shot immediately after that, the bars are all fine. In the same shot, the bars of Tiny Nose's cell are resting way above the lever, but in the following shot, they've moved down to align with the lever. Removing the doorknob does not automatically unlock a door. You still have to slide the bolt out of place, which are usually spring-loaded, so good luck. In the previous scene, King had the door directly behind him, but in this following scene, the door has magically shifted to his left. And then when King lands, the door is directly behind him again. More snake imagery. Some of this contraband is from the human realm, but none of it is apparently dangerous in any way, so I wonder why Warden Wrath has put it up here. Does he hate humans and human culture too? And if that's the case, why make it accessible to a human? That's a big security oversight.
My crown!
Luce looks so disappointed. She's been dragged along this tedious mission, she's been scared half to death numerous times, and all for a Burger Queen crown. She knows that its value is worth next to nothing, and she was expecting so much more given the whole King of Demons thing. Even the way she hands it off to King looks aggressive, but at least King is happy.
I shall call you Francois, and you shall be a minion in my army of darkness.
These boxes were not there when the crew entered the room, nor will they be there when they exit, but hey, we got Francois. And why are those boxes of clearly stolen contraband not behind the force field with everything else? Seems like someone at the conformatorium got lazy.
That crown doesn't give him any powers, does it?
No.
King would be able to hear this. You are talking loudly and openly right next to him. Maybe next time try and whisper.
Now let's get out of here before the warden finds us and loses his head.
Too late.
Excuse me? You just decapitated someone. If it hadn't been established earlier that Eda can remove body parts and still be fine, this scene would have instantly made the Owl House an R18 kids show. And that I'd really love to see.
Ow! Oh, I hate it when that happens.
There's another animation error here where Eda's left ear is just missing. She still has her earring in, but the left ear is gone.
This just happens when you get older.
Does it?
Does it? Oh dang, I better check my neck.
My guards could never get you, but I knew if I took your pet's toy, you'd come running.
We see Eda's body crawling around on the floor here, and I know that that's a fairly standard trope for horror, but Eda's brain is no longer attached, so realistically her body should be lifeless.
What do you want with me? I've never actually broken any of your stupid laws in front of you.
No, but you are the most wanted criminal on the Boiling Isles.
You've always eluded our capture. You've always been the one who got away. I found that alluring.
That was an incredibly creepy line, but it was delivered so well. I don't know how to feel about this.
Eda, lend me a hand!
As Luce is flying past these prison cells, we can see multiple shadows of other inmates, and as established earlier, the Warden Wrath imprisons people unfairly based on what he does and doesn't like. But despite this, Luce doesn't bother to open any of their cells. The only 3 she opens are the 3 that we spend time with on screen. Screw everybody else, I guess. The eye guy suddenly has all of his eyes again, so I guess he doesn't digest them, he just likes storing them in his stomach. Yeah, he needs professional help. Also, where were all of these coven guards when the crew broke in? They were not subtle at all, and should have been heard or seen at least by one of them, right? Luce enters this window on like the 20th floor and exits through the door on like the 3rd floor, but both times she flies past the same prison cells with the same 3 inmates. How does that work?
Luz, go back to the human world.
What about you guys?
Eda just gave the portal door key to Luz. Now you could see this as one of 2 ways. A, this is just weird, or B, Eda finally trusts Luce. Hear me out. There is only one portal door in existence, and it becomes a big plot device later on in this season. The portal door is an extremely valuable item, and as seen earlier in this episode, the portal door itself can be summoned with the key. So if Luce was to go home and enter the human realm, she'd have to take the key with her, and therefore she also takes the ability to summon the portal door off Eda. This completely shuts out Eda from being able to use the portal door and continuing her business selling human collectibles. Eda has not thought about this at all, and Luce going home right now would completely screw her over. Has anyone else noticed that Warden Wrath can't cast magic? Like, every ability that we've seen him use has been physical. Body morphing, breathing fire. I guess he's in the same boat as Hunter with not being able to cast magic spells. And if he can't cast any magic, why has the Emperor's Coven put him in charge of the conformatorium? Surely that's a disadvantage. That is some really accurate physics animated on Luce's bag. It's not much, but those small things matter. How did these 3 get from like way up the top on the 20th floor to ground level in the space of a minute? I'm calling bull.
Self-doubt is a prison you could never escape from.
Oh wow, Warden Wrath isn't the only form of torture you've experienced throughout your life, isn't it? That's deep.
Why are you helping us?
Because us weirdos have to stick together. And nobody should be punished for who they are.
This message of us weirdos have to sit together is mentioned many times in this episode, and it does feel really on the nose, despite the fact that it is a good message to get across to the audience. A lot of people cite this specific line in this episode as one of the reasons why they don't like this episode, so yeah. So all I can say to those who haven't seen the show yet is persevere, it only gets better from here.
The world is a triangle!
And I practice the ancient art of fan fiction!
So they just tied up Warden Wrath's arms, but the Warden has been shown to be able to morph his body, so shouldn't he be able to morph himself out of that knot?
Do not underestimate me, Warden Wrath, for I am Luce, the human, warrior of peace. Now eat this, sucker!
Ooh, nice callback to the opening scene of this episode. Also, how are those fireworks able to fit into Luce's bag? The fireworks are shown to blow up in his mouth, but as he's running away, the fireworks are still there. Earlier, the eye on the portal door key was shown as a button that you had to physically click in order to activate, but in this scene, Ida barely touches it. It took Luce an entire episode to realise that she is currently living in the fantasy world that is everything she ever dreamed on. It is really on the nose in the scene, but it's also really sweet.
I want to stay and become a witch, like you, and Azora.
What? Alright, that's crazy. Humans can't become witches.
For someone who has just entered an isekai, Luce is really optimistic. She had a choice and she chose to stay. Most isekai leads don't get that choice. Later on in the season, it's established that Luce can in fact get cell phone reception in the Boiling Isles, provided that the portal door is open and active. However, we saw Ida close the portal door not too long ago, so how is Luce getting reception? Again, this is just a pilot thing, but this is the only time throughout the entire show that the owl house itself is depicted as blinking. There was no opening title or opening theme for this episode. This is the only episode where this ever happened. Whoa, 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 spoilers! These characters are still unknown to us! And that's it, we've made it to the end of episode 1. As far as pilots go, I really enjoyed this. The story mainly focuses on getting to know our 3 main protagonists and Luce forming a bond with them all. It was a fun little adventure, and it set the themes and future story beats up in a manageable way. Nothing felt too overwhelming. The only real downside is that a lot of what you see doesn't appear in future episodes, but they get really good at linking episodes together and keeping things consistent later on, so I don't mind that at all. Now I'm not gonna lie, this episode's video took a long time to make, and it being the pilot episode introducing us to everything for the first time, the script ended up being just over 5,000 words long. Knowing that, I'm going to try and space each episode out at about 1 per week, but no promises with the script, as I don't think that any episode is going to take as long again until we get to probably Enchanting Grom fight. I guess we'll just find out. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with Season 1, Episode 2, Witches Before Wizards.